Charlotte, North Carolina moved quietly in the summer of 1919. The streets looked calm, the storefronts looked ordinary, and the city carried itself as if nothing in America had changed. But beneath that calm, the same tension that burned through Chicago, Washington, and Elaine had settled into the Carolinas. Black soldiers had returned from France wearing uniforms that demanded respect. And in Charlotte, those uniforms became symbols that frightened the old order. Many of these men had served in the 92nd Division. They had marched through mud, artillery, and the bitter cold of Europe. They had fought for a country that did not fight for them. One of them was Private Henry Houston. He walked the streets of Charlotte with quiet pride, believing that service meant something. But in 1919, pride was dangerous. White merchants whispered that Black veterans were getting too bold. Newspapers printed warnings disguised as news. And in the alleys behind Tryon Street, the old rules began to reassemble themselves. The spark came the way it often did during the Red Summer. A rumor spread that a Black man had spoken out of turn to a white woman near the trolley stop. No evidence, no witnesses, just a whisper that grew into a threat. By nightfall, a crowd gathered outside the jail. Men carried anger they could not name and fear they refused to admit. The sheriff stood on the steps, unsure whether to protect the law or surrender to the mob. He had seen what happened in other cities. He knew how quickly a rumor could turn into a riot. Inside the jail, Houston and two other veterans waited. They had seen mobs before. They had seen hatred in uniform, and out of it, they knew that silence could be fatal. So they did the only thing they could. They sang. Their voices rose through the brick walls, low at first, then stronger. Old spirituals turned into battle hymns, songs they had carried across the ocean, songs that reminded them they were still men, even in a cell. Outside, the crowd hesitated. The sound unsettled them. It broke the rhythm of hate. Then, a Black pastor stepped forward. Reverend J. T. Williams walked through the crowd with a calm that did not match the danger around him. He spoke to the sheriff, not the mob. He reminded him that the law was not a weapon. It was a responsibility. He spoke of duty, of conscience, and of the weight of leadership. His words cut through the shouting. The sheriff listened. He raised his hand and ordered the crowd to disperse. Some resisted. Some cursed. But slowly, the mob broke apart. Not because of fear, but because someone had finally told the truth out loud. By dawn, Charlotte was quiet again. No fires, no bodies, no headlines. The veterans were released and told to leave town. Reverend Williams returned to his church, knowing the next rumor could be his last. And the people of Charlotte carried the memory of that night like a secret. A victory too fragile to celebrate. A reminder that survival sometimes depended on a single voice refusing to bend. Across America, the Red Summer burned through more than 30 cities. Charlotte's story was small compared to the others, but it mattered. It showed that resistance did not always roar. Sometimes it whispered. Sometimes it stood in a doorway and refused to move. Sometimes it sang through the bars of a jail. And sometimes, in the heart of the South, it held a line long enough for morning to come. This was Charlotte, North Carolina. This was Red Summer, 1919. This is Black justice untold. See, they tried to erase it. They tried to silence it, but we are still here, still telling the truth. If this episode challenged what you thought you knew, don't keep it to yourself. Push it forward. Start the conversation they tried to silence. This is Black Justice Untold. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe.